What's going on, guys? My name is Tim Roswick, and today we're talking about whether or not you should make your game easier. Now, this has been something that I've been working with and dealing with off and on ever since Philophobia came into existence. Philophobia, for those of you who don't know, is the game that I'm working on, and it's supposed to release soon. It's my main game that I've been developing for. It's been in development for a couple years, but realistically, I don't have that much time into it. But the game is really hard. It's really hard. It's been compared to Super Meat Boy and that kind of thing. So I've had a constant struggle on whether or not I should make the game harder or whether I should make the game easier. And my reasoning was always, okay, there's a story in Philophobia. Philophobia is a word that means the fear of love. And this is about a dude that commits suicide because his girlfriend left him, and then he kind of goes through the 5 stages of grief in hell as these demonic hearts taunt him. And it's kind of a cool little story, but doing so, I realized that games, unlike any other medium on the planet, can prevent someone from experiencing the rest of them with their difficulty. So, in other words, you go to a movie, you can watch the whole movie. You buy an album, you can listen to the whole album. But a game, if you buy a game, you can't necessarily experience the whole game unless you get good, right? Like, unless you have the skills to actually pull off the thing that you need to do to experience the story. And so this brings up the whole question of, if you have a hard game, are people going to finish the game? Are people going to finish the story? And not only that, but I think there's actually an ethical concern. I haven't heard this talked about too much. But, you know, ethically, should we actually try and prevent people from finishing the game? Should we design things in a hard way where people may not be able to finish? Or is it kind of our duty to help them experience this thing that they paid for, help them experience all of the content in the game? So I've been kind of going back and forth on whether or not I should make my game easier. And I've done a lot of research into like Dark Souls and some games like Cuphead, some games that are notoriously hard. And I was trying to figure out like what makes these games stand out. Like, why don't just people just throw down and say it's too hard? Why do these games, out of all the other games, people celebrate their difficulty rather than hate it? There are plenty of, like, I've played plenty of games that are just too hard, and it's frustrating hard. I played Bloody Trapland. I fucking hate that game. I'm sorry. I hate that game so much. Nicole loves it, and she always wants me to play it with her, but, like, yo. No. That game, no. That's way too hard. It's ridiculous. It's insane. I think that's a bad kind of difficult, to be honest. Some people love it, though. I see people playing it, and it's insane to me. But a game like Cuphead I actually had a lot of fun with. It's frustrating sometimes, but it's very... I like the fact that there's not many games these days where you get that feeling of accomplishment when you finish something. And I think a perfect example of this is, like, for me, Destiny 1 was awesome because it got me back into multiplayer. Like, it made me interact with people. It made me form groups of 6 people to join these raids. And then the raids were like the pinnacle of 6 people having to work together and have teamwork and do all this stuff to take down this big boss in multiple sections. And then I feel like Destiny 2 kind of dumbed all that down and made everything easier, and all the bosses and stuff were easier to do, and all the guys were easier to kill. And it's just like, I don't want that to happen to a game. So at what point do you make a game easier to help the player? Well, for me, what I realize is that there's a few different ways to kind of accommodate the player while not actually giving up on the design pillars of your game. So for my game, I think having a hard game is part of the experience. That's just part of what you're going to get. That's just, this game is just hard. And I've been designing a lot of easier levels to kind of walk people through it. But what I'm finding is that like the inexperienced players are having a better time because the levels are easier. But the experienced and hardcore players are zooming through these levels to the point where it's boring. So a couple days ago, I made a video called I forget what it was called, but it was about making a game for one person, like how to find your target audience and like really focus in on that one person. And I realized that like I was making my game for too many people. I was trying to accommodate the casuals and the hardcore. When really what I should be doing is doubling down and focusing on one person. It's not to say that other people can't play it, right? Like casuals can play the game. But I realized that I needed to really focus in on the core gameplay experience. And the core gameplay, I think, transcends the story. So the game is going to be hard. That being said, it's going to be primarily for the hardcore players. But I think there are going to be options that will kind of help cater to the casuals. If you really want to experience the story, you can. I'm experimenting right now with I have a kill counter in the game, or a death counter. So when you die, it counts how many times you die in the level. And I'm experimenting right now with a way to skip the level if you die like more than 10, 15 times or whatever it is. So on like easy mode, right? Like if you're playing easy mode and you die more than 15, 20 times, whatever it is, you can skip the level. And I think a system like that might help facilitate players without giving up the difficulty. And it's just, like, because I've seen a couple times where I've had testers, like especially in-person testers, where they sit down, they're playing a game, they ask me something about the level, like how do I beat this or what's going on, and I was like, no, dude, you're almost there or something, or I'm like, why don't you just quit? Why don't you skip it? When I tell them to skip it, they're like, no, I want to finish this. Like I need to finish it. I need to complete it. So the completionists, like, I feel like are not going to use that and abuse it, and I feel like the casuals will maybe find it useful. So for me personally, I don't think making a game easier is the route to take. I know a lot of AAA games have done it, and I know it's a common tactic to kind of dumb down the campaign a little bit to get people through the story and through the experience, and I totally understand that. But I think sometimes we sacrifice the quality of what our games are by trying to make them easier. And there's something to be said about like Dark Souls and Cuphead and the games that they say, no, this game is not for everybody. This game is hard as shit, and you're either going to play it or you're not. I think it was a developer of Dark Souls that said every time someone said it was too hard, he went back in the studio and made it harder. And I always liked that kind of behavior. Like Vlambeer did this too with Nuclear Throne. They designed a lot of things specifically to fuck over the player in a lot of different ways, and they just made it hard, like unforgivingly hard. Just like no sorries, no nothing. Just this is the game and this is what you're getting. And I think you make a better game by not compromising like that. I think you make a better game by totally putting down exactly what you want to put down, building what you want to build. I think there are ways to accommodate other players without decreasing the difficulty. So like I was saying, skipping levels. You can do the opposite too. You can reward hardcore behavior with hardcore levels. Like another thing that I'm doing in Phylophobia is there are collectibles in each level that are very hard to get to. Only the hardcore players can reach those collectibles. And then when you reach enough of them, you can unlock extra sections of levels that you can play. And so that it rewards the people that try extra hard with stuff that they can try extra hard at, rather than the other route where people that are doing badly, you know, they can move forward anyway and kind of get a participation trophy. So there are a few different ways to do it. I don't think I'm going to dumb down my game to cater to the audience or get people through the story. Do I want people to experience the story? Yes, but I don't think decreasing the difficulty is how I do it. And unfortunately, I've I think I fell into the trap of trying to make my game easier so that everyone can access it. And so I've got some more work to do. I've got to go back and kind of make stuff more difficult again. And it's going to be fun, especially since we're a month from launch at this point in time. So I don't know how it's going to get done, but it's going to get done. And I hope I shed some light on making games easier versus making games harder. And you know what? I think people they may not say they're into hard games, but I think people enjoy the experience of actually beating a hard game or beating a really hard level. Your game's just got to be hard enough to carry them through that whole frustrating experience. And that's what it comes down to. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment down below. What are your thoughts? Should you make your game easier to get people through the campaign? Should you just say no compromises and make your game hard as shit if it wanted to be hard as shit? Let me know your thoughts. I'm legit interested in what you have to say because this is a problem I'm struggling with right now. And I'm sharing it with you guys. But if you've got any thoughts on this or experience or anything like that, leave it down below because I learned just as much from you guys as you learned from me. But once again, I'm Tim Ruswick, and I will see you again tomorrow.